Romeo Castellucci, we are 9th of June, I think, to today. I'm in Vienna, you are in Cesena.
Exactly.
More or less, you were supposed to be in Vienna more or less at this time.
Absolutely.
Because we invited you with this amazing project you created last summer in Aix-en-Provence, Requiem. And I would really like to start this conversation immediately talking about this work, because I'm extremely sad, of course, that we cannot share it with the audience in Vienna this year. But really, we are working definitely on the possibility to present it on a later stage. So I really hope we will make it. But if you have to describe us a bit, what was your impulse? What some images you would really like to use to introduce us to this Requiem? How would you start?
Yeah, but first of all, it's not an opera, and that is already the first good news, if you want, because you are allowed to dare more, much more, because it's more available, let's say, as a form of theater, because it's not an opera, it's an oratorio, technically speaking, and it's a kind of sequence of different songs. And we are speaking of Mozart, so extremely powerful and emotional. For me, the key of access was the title, Requiem. That means rest in peace. The name of the prayer, in fact, that we give for the dead. And for me was already a wonderful riddle, a wonderful problem. I love very much to have problem in front of which I cannot. I don't like. I want to have on me a kind of pressure. I think it's a kind of need that I have to be stuck in a corner of a problem, and then we have to save you in front of a problem. That is a good approach. And the Requiem, of course, is a song, is a prayer for the dead, but for me, listen to the music, because that is my technique, very easy. I'm listening 1,000 times. It's like a mantra that normally I do. And until to reach a point of abstraction, I'm lost in the music. And this point, this moment, I can read it in another way. And for me, listen to the Requiem. There was a principle of life, and for me was clearly, at a certain point, a celebration of life. For that reason, I start from the beginning to searching for joy. And with Evelyn Facchini, the choreographer, we start to make a research on the folkloric materials, dances, taken from all over the world. And that was I think the principal line, the spinal decision, the celebration of life. And then Foucault, of course, another problem was the beauty, sense of beauty. And the beauty is beauty because it's fading, because it's not last, it's something that disappears continuously. So in the beauty inscribes the idea of death. And that was the starting point to consider the extinction. So there is a kind of, in the back of the wall, there was a kind of clock made with the names of animals, plants, but even piece of art, architecture that we have lost. Yes, it's a kind of clock. Mm-hmm. It's like a memento, but it's not because it's sad. Because it's the engine of life. We have to lose something in order to have something, in order to be alive. That was more or less the principle. And then finished. Well, this project was possible just because of Pygmalion Ensemble and Raphael Fichon. So the collaboration was extraordinary. So with all the singers, the choir, I met people very generous and very brave, because they do everything. They dance continuously, singing. So it's very daring. But I think the result was also, for that reason, because of the fatigue, was touching.
Because of course, an opera, you have in a way a dramaturgy that is already there. You have characters, you have plots. So how do you do that when you take such a piece of music which has no narrative in it? So how?
Yeah. But then because there are many kind of conception of theater. Personally, I started when I was young in a non-narrative theater. There was no pattern in sense of narration. And so I was almost prepared. But you have to, there is a click in the mind. You have to change your attitude. Because of course it's a difficulty, because if you have any structure of narration, you can be lost. So you have to reinvent, let's say, new limits, because in general, theater is the art in which you have to have limits. So you have to invent it. And so I invented, in a way, a main character that was the choir. So the people. So there was one unity. And then all around, like satellites, all around this unity, there was other characters. The little girl, the little boy, old man, the soloist. It was a kind of cluster of characters all around the protagonist, that was the choir. That means the people. That means us. That means me and you. But we had to have a structure. It's very structured. I need this kind of skeleton. You need something in order to put the muscle and the skin. You need the skeleton. That was my strategy. But because all together we built one object, all together. It was not my pedagogy. I don't like this word. I refuse to be the master that I know. I don't know nothing. I discovered them. It's not a false democracy. I don't believe in democracy in theater and in art. It's not like that. It's not because I want to share It's not like that. All of us, we obey to the form. So it's a cult, if you want. It's not at all something of spontaneous or free, not at all. But it was clear for us a kind of geometry of the beauty coming from the music, of course, the words, but all together with them was possible to shape this form. And at the end, everyone was in a condition of paradoxical freedom, in obedience, obeying. That is a paradox. But yeah.
So because listening to you, you are a bit using two opposite concepts. On one hand, you talk about freedom, but you are also mentioning limits. That you said it's about defining maybe new limits, but still as a theater maker, you are defining some limits.
If you want, in general, the word freedom no makes sense in art, no? If you are free, you are lost. You have, because the technique is the limit. So you have to do something all the time with the limit. The limit is the technique. So limits exist, luckily, and but you have to fight with the limit. That is the struggle of art. It's not just entertainment. It's a fight. It's a fight. It's a battlefield with the limits. Yes. Yeah.
And Pygmalion was absolutely 100% with you in this fight. You could actually, your role is actually to share this fight with them, that it becomes their fight and not...
Absolutely. It's also a matter of chasing for the limits, new limits. Every day we push the line, every day was step by step with them. It's not my project. Yes, of course, I'm the director and so on, but they are alone on the stage, so they have to be able to sustain, to be present in the limits.
The absence of a stage, like theater are closed, a stage at the moment is not a space we can use or occupy. What are the other spaces for in this kind of situation?
But my opinion is the mind. The mind, in mind, imagining words, spaces, and times. You can have entire different landscapes. But I'm quite good with that because my theater is very mental, let's say. So for me, it's already like this. I don't believe in rehearsal, for example, just the minimum. I don't believe in rehearsal like a tool for inventing things. So for me, it's very mental. It's a palace of mental palace, the theater. So,
which means when you arrive most of the time in a studio or on stage, you know what you want to do.
Absolutely, but luckily, I fall in contradiction every time. So it's an illusion, but I need this illusion. I want to start with everything is ended, but it's an illusion because you have to. There is a clash with the principle of reality. So there are other people with a real body, you listen the other voices and so on. You have for sure the clash with the materials, with all, as a consequence, all the difficulty, technical difficulty, and so on. And at the end, your idea is changed. But that is good. So yes. So I try is also pathetic. I try to save the original idea, but I know that is not possible. It's not possible. And that is a lucky. It's a chance because finally, when the idea met the reality, something alive can born. No, otherwise it's still without blood. I mean. So the clash between reality and the idea is the third object. In fact, it's able to. So it doesn't belong to me completely because I have to say goodbye to the original idea. You have to accept. Sometimes it's difficult, but you have to accept to say. Goodbye.
Which means at the moment you are accumulating a lot of mental constructions.
A lot.
But you cannot organize the clash with the reality.
Exactly. That I miss this part. Yes, the encounter with the reality. Where is the reality? I have just the real inside of me, but I need this. This confrontation with the reality that apparently is completely disappeared around me.
How you go from one work to the other? Like maybe we could also finish little by what is coming next for you now? Because is Requiem what so far the last production you could finish?
Requiem. Probably yes.
Yeah.
Probably yes. Yes. Mm-hmm. So I think so. Yes.
And it's going to be a year ago, so it's
a year ago. It's Salzburg. We miss other things. We miss also in Brussels another theatrical production. So yes, also because of the coronavirus. Yes. But for me, if you want, it's just theater. You change collaborators, you change the context, you change tools, also audience sometimes, but at the end, it's just theater. So if you are preparing a performance for 10 people or an opera for 1,500 people, it's the same. In a certain level, it's the same. You have to switch quite fast, different techniques. That yes. But the attitude, I'm convinced that is the same. I'm the same. It's not. I'm not. I mean, I think I'm the same person. Yeah, and technically, I'm normally I work in parallel on different projects. Like if you know, una bottega. Renaissance, in which the painter was able to paint different paint at once. So I'm preparing 4 different projects at the same time. But if you keep a kind of order, I work on different block notes. It's not easy. It's not so difficult for me to have this difference. It's quite natural.
But how much do they interfere with each other, these 4 different block nodes, as you say?
Sometimes there are connection. Sometimes I have to really separate it because probably I said, Mama, I feel that is wrong. But sometimes are very close, are like a cluster of different languages on one idea. It depends also probably because on the fact that I'm in this reality and I'm surrounded by different phenomena that belong to everyone. I don't know, for example, what's going on in America now, in the United States is very impressive. And for sure, I react in front of this fact. I absorb, I react in front of what's happening around me. And for sure, this perception, this sensation, this feeling change also from an artistic point of view, what I am doing. Yeah. For example, I have to renounce to the project called BROS, because the project was on Polis, but now I have to renounce to this project because of the reality. The reality is much more stronger, and you cannot manage. You cannot manage. So in this case, I have to cancel completely a project that was almost finished, ready to be presented in Brussels in the Crystal Festival des Arts. But now, after the assassination of George Floyd, I cannot continue in this project because it's already is weak. So sometimes reality enter very direct way in order to interrupt you or change you. So I'm very sensitive, in fact, very sensitive what is. And I don't like at all, the opposite. I hate this kind of commentary on the reality. In my opinion, is not the duty of theater. But that is a personal opinion, of course. So that is for instance, is an example very, very clear.
Again, it's another form of clash with the reality.
Yes, but in this case, the reality wins because you cannot sublimate, you cannot symbolize, it's too much. It's already, you are crushed by the power of this image. You cannot forget this image. The image of George Floyd, the man crushed by the police, it's so violent, so unbelievable. You cannot manage, absolutely not. In this case, it's better to, because the way to read your work is completely, it became bidimensional. My work, BROS, was much more on idea of an anthropological idea of the police, the violence, the relationship with the law, the paradox of the law that the hard core of the law is the violence. And there was also a reference with the policeman in the first cinema. I was thinking to Buster Keaton, so the policeman the action of the police was the guarantee of the chaos. So without police, without the idea of order, you cannot have chaos. So there was all this kind of elaboration, also, if you want, philosophical or even metaphysical. After Minneapolis, forget it. The reality is much more strong than you in this case. And the only thing is to renounce. And yeah. Also as a respect in front of the victim. It's not, you know, is something is. Sometimes fiction is not able to sustain real pain. So for me, it was the case of to stop.
To finish and to go back to Requiem, in a way, Requiem has also this very strong resonance for me today when you were describing it as a celebration of life, next to a moment where a world pandemic is paralyzing a whole planet. The piece has also, according to me, strong resonances with this reality that.
Still. But if you want, yes, when you are in a situation like this, you can feel a sense of fragility of life. And the fragility of life is the beauty. So you can feel in this moment the sense of life, the surprise of the life. Life is a surprise. Every day is a surprise. It's a big surprise to be awake every morning. This is a surprise. I don't like this word, but because I don't like in general religious vocabulary. But to say yes, every morning is a miracle. It's not evident. Life is not evident. It's a surprise every day, and that thanks to this condition. Probably we realize this miracle, this very bizarre fact. Why we are here, nobody knows. Just by chance, but it's a miracle. Or at least is a surprise.
Thank you.